So is there an argument for having dedicated load balancers just for your object storage, or should you just use the load balancers that you've already got?
Well, okay. So in my opinion, this depends entirely upon who's owning that object storage platform, right? If it's a customer, if I'm running my own object storage platform, I've already got a load balancer, and I've got complete control over it, and I'm responsible for the uptime of the object storage platform, then fair enough. There's an argument to say I could use a load balancer that I've already got. But that load balancer might be doing more than one thing. It might be doing, at 10 o'clock every night, it's doing beam backup, right? But it just so happens
the object storage anyway.
Well, so if it's going through a load, if it's going through a load balancer, it could be beam backup, could be going off to object storage. It might be going to its own SAN. It might be going off site to another data center. It might be going wherever, right? Ultimately, if there's another load that's going through the load balancer at the same time, we call it noisy neighbour, right? Where effectively we've got another service pulling resources and drain on the load balancer, and that's having an impact potentially on the throughput of the load balancer to the object storage platform. So if we're talking about the object storage provider, if I was an object storage provider, I'd be absolutely freaking out and panicking if my customer said to me, "Can I carry on using my load balancers?" Because as an object storage provider, I've got a commitment to a certain SLA, a certain uptime, certain throughput, and the problem I'd have with that is that if I allow my customer to be the front entry door point into my object storage platform, and then they go and do a load of crazy stuff on their load balancer, then my SLAs and my performance metrics are not going to be valid. I might be able to achieve that on a storage platform, but the customer's the entry point, and it's going to muck that up.
See, that's really interesting to me on the sales side, because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, right, what do I do for a living? I sell load balancers, right? Of course, I'm going to say you need dedicated load balancers.
Of course.
Why would you need anything else?
Yeah,
It'd be crazy to tell you don't.
Yeah.
But it's actually really interesting to hear it in those terms, that it's not only about the customer getting the right level of performance, it's also actually about protecting the storage vendor themselves, because as you just said, and I spent some time working in the storage space, so I know a lot of the time when you're selling storage to enterprises, the requirements are around a certain amount of capacity and throughput and performance. And if you don't live up to those promised metrics, you're in a world of pain. Exactly. You either misset expectations or you upset the customer. Worst of all, they end up having to spend more money. So it's
but you also end up as the vendor who's then having to prove that it's the customer's load balancer that's at fault rather than their own equipment.